watched by more people than any other network.
On Sunday evening at 9 o'clock, and we are honored that you have chosen this program to appear on, and we welcome you here to CBS.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming in. You made 56 movies between the beginning of your career in 1973, and then you said...
No.
You made 57, but that was late.
The beginning of my career, I hate to tell you, was 1939.
Why would you hate to tell me?
Well, no, I don't really hate to tell you. It doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Me neither. But you left in 1973.
Yes,
Why?
I quit.
Why?
Well, I married perhaps the most wonderful, exciting, gorgeous, handsome man in the world, Charlie Blair, who was senior pilot of Pan Am. He was a general in the Air Force. He wore 2 hats. He was the man who first flew solo in a single-engine plane over the pole to prove that the United States could bomb Europe over the pole and that Russia and Europe could bomb the United States over the pole.
Sure.
He flew the 5 fastest commercial crossings of the Atlantic in a seaplane, a Sikorsky S-44. He flew the first non-stop flight of the Atlantic.
The definitive pilot, as it were. Mr. Pilot.
Yes, he was.
All right. And so for him, you said, bye-bye silver screen, bye-bye Hollywood.
That's right. And he was a great friend of Duke's, John Wayne. And I still made 1 or 2 pictures after we were married. And Duke came down to the Virgin Islands, where we moved to. I lived in the Virgin Islands and have and still do. And I knew by the way they played it that they had worked it out together, because they were great chess players. They were both playing chess, and they looked up and sat back, and they said, by the way, Maureen, don't you think it's time you just stayed home? And the way it was done, I knew it was plotted and planned. And I thought, they think they're going to get an argument out of me.
So we can see the captain and the Duke saying, we've got to concoct a way to get her off the screen and get her home where she belongs, huh?
Well, that's Charlie and he planned it together. So I said, fine, I quit. And I quit there and then.
And didn't go back until 1991 when John Candy, for whatever the reason, said, you know, I'm making a picture called Only the Lonely, and you should be in it, and you went back one time.
That's right. Well, it was Christopher Columbus was the director of that, and he wrote the horrible Chicago Irish woman in it for me, and then couldn't find me. And he found my brother, Charles Fitzsimons, who is the executive director of the Producers Guild, sent him the script. I was in Ireland on my every summer holiday to go fishing and playing golf and climbing mountains. And my brother called me, and he said, I've just read the script, and this you do. And I said, no, I don't want to go back to work. So he said, I'm sending it to you. I read it. I called him up, and I said, okay,
I'll do it.
I do.
And when you went back, what was it like now? Because it's 18, 19 years since you'd been on the soundstage. So when you go back, what's it like?
No different.
No?
No, as if I had never left. It was just the same. And working with John Candy and Christopher Columbus was particularly
wonderful. Sound like Norma Desmond in Sunset Boulevard. It's as if we never said goodbye. There's a song in the piece when she goes back to the studio after 30 years. She said, it's like I've never left. It's the same.
Well, maybe I should play that part when they put it on the screen.
It's been there once before, and Gloria Swanson did it quite well.
Wonderful. But so that was a non-musical.
You and your husband moved to the Virgin Islands, and there you start a newsletter or a newspaper for the Virgin Islands?
No, it was the top slick magazine. It was called the Virgin Islander.
Oh, okay.
And I wrote an article every month and published the magazine. And then after Charlie was killed, which was the most tragic moment of my life, after running the airline for 2 years, I was the first woman in the United States of America to be president of an airline.
Really?
Yes. And I love the airline industry, and I loved aviation.
And what was the name of this airline?
Antilles Airboats.
Oh, so it worked in the Caribbean, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was the bus line in the Caribbean.
Okay.
We flew over 150 scheduled flights a day. We had 22 pilots and 27 aircraft, and about 90 employees.
How long had your husband been with Pan Am? And the reason I ask is,
he retired with Pan Am.
But would he have gone, certainly not back to the time of the flying boat?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Wow. I told you the 5 fastest crossings of the Atlantic in a seaplane.
Oh, that's right.
Or flying boat.
Okay.
Was Charlie.
And would this have been like the full, remember Pan Am had the big cruisers that...
Well, no, Charlie was originally a Navy flyer. and he flew the seaplanes in the Navy. And then when the Navy couldn't afford their pilots, they let so many of them go, and Charlie went to work for United Airlines, flying out of Salt Lake City, flying the mail.
But I'll tell you, the seaplane is a great invention, man.
Oh,
they have them now that run between here and Catalina, you know. And
not now. They've had those for years. Seaplanes are very old. And in fact, they are the best method of transportation, because the world is full of navigable waters that could be used for seaplanes. And instead, we're using very valuable land. And the land planes are land gobblers. They gobble up land.
That's true.
Whereas a seaplane is only using navigable waters. And it's a self-sealing runway. Or when you land, the water closes back in and seals the runway. When you fly on land, you have to keep paving the runways all the time. And if they get bumps and holes in them, it's very dangerous for the aircraft.
That's right. Plus, water's nice and soft to land on,
yes,
you know?
Yes. Well, no, it can be, water can be tough and rough, but it's wonderful.
You mentioned that your husband tragically lost his life, and I believe it was
in a seaplane.
In a seaplane, in an aircraft accident.
Yes.
Did the irony of that strike you at the time? Here's a man who's flown his whole life.
Well, I was very, very upset by it. And Charlie's mother was an Irish woman. His father was a Scotsman. And she, at that time, was 102 years of age. And I called her up, and I was very hysterical on the phone. And this wonderful, tough lady said to me, she said, "Stop that nonsense. He died the way he wanted to." And so I learned from a very tough lady how to behave.
Sometimes it's hard to learn how to behave, isn't it?
Yeah.
How are you on airplanes today? Are you okay? Or
yes, I used to be absolutely terrified, but and one time I got caught in a hurricane between Dallas and New Orleans, going to New Orleans to do a benefit for the Italian Boys Town for Sinatra. And we got caught in the hurricane, and I was never so terrified in my whole life.
Isn't it, when the thing
oh,
starts
God,
bouncing
it was
around?
terrible. And we were going upside down and sideways, and flame leaping up off the ends of the wingtips, which I afterwards learned was called, I think, St. Elmo's fire.
That's correct.
And really was nothing to be so worried about.
Otherwise,
but I was terrified. I thought we were going to go up in flames.
Why would they name that stuff after a saint, for God's sake? I mean, geez, you know.
Well, you know, you never can tell.
Well,
maybe
we think of flames as being where there are no saints, you know what I mean?
Well, maybe they were giving you a little lesson of how to, what to avoid, so you didn't have to have
when in that instant, when this plane was going every which way but up and flames coming off the wing, are you just sitting there in the seat looking around, or?
Oh, God, no. I was absolutely terrified. And at one time, I had a thing on my lap, and I saw it go up to the ceiling, stick there and stay there, and then slowly drop. And I learned it was because we were having tremendous altitude changes, and instead of bouncing up and flopping back down, it did this slowly. And believe me, it was like a ghost box, and it absolutely terrified me.
Did you scream or anything?
I was paralyzed.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't get a sound out of my mouth.
We are with Maureen O'Hara, who appears on CBS in The Christmas Box this season. We'll talk more about that as we progress, along with you on the toll-free line. We'll be right back after these messages.
Quality leather can last a lifetime, and leather riding.
Good evening, Carol.
Good evening.
Got us on a good night, kid. Maureen O'Hara's here tonight.
It's too exciting.
Me too.
I was just wondering what it was like for Maureen O'Hara to be working with Errol Flynn. I'm such a big fan of Maureen O'Hara, but I had read somewhere that she was one of the most beautiful women, perhaps the most beautiful woman that he had ever worked with, and I wondered what she had thought about him.
Well, he was a very professional man to work with. He always knew his dialogue. He came totally prepared to work, and he was a pleasure to work with. I don't think I'm telling stories out of school when I say that he liked the vodka. And he used to keep... Yes.
Wow.
And he used to keep a bottle full of water, and he would always sip on it, but it was really vodka. And by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Errol usually had to go home because it was too far gone. But I can't tell you that the only thing I didn't like was so many of my love scenes, he was gone home. and it was an X on a little board. And I had to say, oh, I love you, to an X on the board. And I didn't have him looking back at me, so that wasn't nice.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was a fine, professional gentleman to work with.
Uh-huh. And I'm told that in addition to the vodka, he did like pretty ladies.
Yes, we've been told that, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe there's a little bit of, what's the word, a colloquial English, in like Flynn?
Would you, I don't know. I don't think that came from Flynn.
I heard that.
My goodness.
Carol, I'm glad you called. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
You worked with the legendary John Ford, whom you described as the best director of all time.
The best, the finest, between the words roll it and cut. You couldn't meet a greater director. But he was a tough, mean old devil.
A taskmaster. How tough, how mean?
Well, he was a mixture. He was kind and sweet and wonderful, but oh, he was tough. And he and John Wayne loved to aggravate me and annoy me and try to, there's so many stories I can tell. Which one do you want me to tell?
The best one.
The best one? Oh, they did awful things to me.
What did they do to you?
Well, one that I particularly love, but I could sit here for a week and tell stories about John Wayne and John Ford.
I know you could.
But most directors,
we could sit here for a week and listen to stories about John Wayne and John Ford.
Well, sitting on a cart in The Quiet Man, at the end of the race sequence, when John Wayne didn't take my bonnet off the stake, I was sitting there on the cart, and then he started to do my close-up of my surprise and shock and anger that he hadn't taken my hat. Most directors would have blown the wind machines in your face and blown your hair all back. But John Ford, no, he was a great cameraman as well as a great director. And he put the wind machines behind me, and he blew my hair forward because my hair was then very long. And it was like wire lashing across my eyes because red hair is very strong and wiry.
Right, right.
And he started yelling at me, keep your so-and-so eyes open. And I got to the point where I couldn't stand it another minute. And I put my hands on the side, and I looked at him, and I said, what would a bald-headed old son of a bitch like you know about hair lashing across your eyeballs? And I thought, oh, my God.
I've done it now.
What have I done? I'm going to get fired. I'm going to get thrown off the set. And the wonderful part of the story is I watched him. I watched his eyes. I watched him check every face on the set like that in a flash and make his decision whether to laugh or kill me. And he decided to laugh. And the old devil won again. He always won.
Did he really?
Always won.
Yeah. You know, one of the didn't he make How Green Was My Valley?
Yes, he sure did.
We saw that picture 150 times in Catholic grade school in Milwaukee. The nuns would run it over and over and over again because they loved it. You know.
Oh,
yeah.
It was a wonderful.
And
it's still one of the great classic pictures
no
of the world.
No question. You know, I worked with his grandson at NBC. A fellow named Dan Ford was the stage manager on my shows. Yeah. And his mother was Jane Ford, who I believe had married John Ford's son.
That's right.
Okay.
He was mother to Danny.
To Dan, right. And from Dan, I bought his mother's house in New York. I bought Jane Ford's townhouse in New York. And I bought all the furniture in it. Everything. Lock, stock, and barrel. And,
Did a bed go with it?
Which one?
The 4-poster bed.
You're kidding. No, it's in my house in Beverly Hills now. I have
That is my bed.
You got to be kidding me.
That is my bed. When they were married.
Oh, you knew then?
Yes. Well, I didn't know you got my bed.
You want to sleep in it tonight?
With or without you?
Your call. Either way, I can promise you a bumpy ride. Fasten your seatbelt now.
My God.
Now, how did you know John Ford's daughter-in-law, and how did she get your bed?
Well, I was great friends, naturally, with John Ford and Mary Ford.
Sure.
And then with his son, Pat, who married Jane, and they were great friends of mine, too.
Right.
And they didn't have all the money in the world when they were very young and first got married, and they needed a bed. And they asked me, would I loan them my 4-poster bed? So I did, on one condition, that when they were able to afford a bed, it came back to me. And I
She
never
died
got...
poor, you know.
No. No, Jane became a very, very fine designer.
No question.
And she moved to New York. And one time, when I saw Danny, I said, Danny, where's my bed? And he said, Mother has it in New York. And I said, oh, I want to find out where she is and tell me so I can get my bed back. And now you have my bed?
You know what's great about that bed?
What?
Number one, it's a big four-poster, high off the floor.
That's right.
Secondly,
I hope you never fall out of it because you'll break your skull.
I will. And the other thing is it's bigger than a king-size bed. It's a huge, huge bed. And you have to have custom mattresses made for it and springs because you can't just buy them in the store. They have, when I bought this house, I had it renovated, and I had put new bedding on the bed, and it cost me a lot of money to have a mattress maker in New York make up the proper bedding for your bed.
Well,
you're really steamed about this, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. I've been chasing that bed for years, and now I find it's here.
It's here.
Well, is it in L.A. or New York?
It's in Los Angeles, man.
Oh, well, watch out one of these nights.
I'll be keeping an eye out for you. We are with Maureen O'Hara, who's a good sport. She's in the Christmas box on CBS, and we will get to that. And more of you on the toll-free line as time permits right after these messages. In West Liberty, Kentucky. Hi, and welcome to CBS.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello, Maureen.
Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
She's
Pretty
fine.
good.
Melinda, we're all fine, Melinda. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on TV tonight.
Okay.
We'd be in the hospital.
Okay. I just wanted to say that Maureen O'Hara is one of my all-time favorite actresses, and I would like to know what her favorite film role is.
Well, you know, you ask a silly question and you'll get a silly answer. Naturally, my favorite film role was The Quiet Man, and my favorite leading man was the Duke himself.
John Wayne.
John Wayne. And my favorite director, of course, was John Ford. But I did have other favorites like Henry Fonda and Brian Keith and Jimmy Stewart and the other wonderful people I worked with. And Charles Laughton, who brought me to America.
Now, a lot of people say that Charles Laughton discovered you. You were pretty well along. You were pretty successful by the time Charles Laughton caught you. I believe you were 18 years old at the time working in Dublin.
No, I was 17, actually. Not that 1 year. What difference does 1 year make in a lifetime?
Now especially.
No. But,
well, if you're 100, a year makes a lot. But if you're age 17 or 18.
No, then it's just another year. Yeah. But I was in the Abbey Theatre in Ireland, and prior to that I had been in other local theatre. I had won every award you could win in Ireland, but it was Laughton who signed me out of the Abbey Theatre to make films with him in England, and my first film was Jamaica Inn with Charles Laughton. And Charles Laughton brought me to the United States of America to make The Hunchback of Notre Dame with him. Mm-hmm. And then RKO bought my contract from Laughton, which was a very sad day for me. I cried for weeks and begged him not to sell me. Oh. But he did.
Yeah. And was that part of the pang of the studio system, that you could be bought and sold as chattel?
Oh, yeah. Yes, because finally RKO bought me from Charles Laughton. And then John Ford cast me in How Green Was My Valley. And 20th Century Fox would not let me play the role unless they owned part of me. And they bought one picture a year from RKO. And eventually...
So they're slicing you up and dicing you up?
Like ball players.
Yeah,
we were bought and sold in those days.
Yeah. Did you ever know this man, Harry Cohn?
I sure did, and I loved him.
Really? Because a lot of people didn't love him a great deal.
Do we have time to tell a wonderful story about him?
Yes, we do. But, Melinda, thanks for calling. Have we answered your question?
Thank you.
Okay, good night then,
Thanks,
lady.
Melinda.
Bye, Melinda. Yeah. Harry Cohn ran Columbia Studios, was it?
That's right. Okay. I had, when I made, the one about the picture about West Point, Long Gray Line. Harry Cohn, again, wanted to own part of me without, before I could have the film. And I had a wonderful handshake agreement with him, which he never broke.
Which in those days, I'm told, was rare. If it wasn't on paper, forget it.
No, I had handshake agreements with John Ford, but also with Harry Cohn, and he never broke it. And whenever I had a complaint, I would go in and talk to him, and he used to say, well, she's the only one that has the guts to come in and sit down in front of me and look at me and talk to me. But one day, he had a lady secretary and a male secretary, and one day I got a phone call, and it said, Mr. Cohn wants to see you. You're to get in here right away. And I thought, oh, my God, what have I done? I'm in trouble now.
Yeah.
So I went in, and I went into the inner office, and he gave me a kiss on each cheek, and he said, sit down. He said, I want you to stay with me this afternoon. He said, I know your background. I know you come from a clothing business family. And he said, I know that more than anybody else, you understand Jewish people. And he said, this afternoon, my 2 sons are becoming Catholics. And you know what that means to a Jew. Would you stay with me? I sat there with him, and he kept looking at his watch, and then the tears rolled down his cheeks. And it was very sad.
Wow, it would be, of course.
And when it was finished, he said, well, it's done now. He said, you can go, Maureen. And he got up, and he gave me a kiss, one on each cheek, and he said, thank you. You can go home.
It's a marvelous story.
But I've told it to so many people that here was a man, a kind, lovely, wonderful man, but a tough businessman. Nobody wants to print that story about Harry Cohn.
No.
Nobody wants to know that he was a nice man.
You see, all the stories I heard was that Harry Cohn was a despot, that he was the toughest guy in Hollywood, and that he'd break the back of an actor over a contract. Not so.
No, he never broke the handshake agreement with me.
You know the story Red Skelton, Red Skelton used to tell, I believe. Red Skelton was, I'm told, was at Harry Cohn's funeral when he passed away, and he did the eulogy. And there were thousands of people at Forest Lawn. And Skelton said, we know why you're here. As Harry Cohn used to say, give them what they want.
No, I loved Harry Cohn, and he was very good and very kind to me, and I found him to be a man with a big heart.
I'll never tell that story again. We will continue.
Please do.
Okay. We'll continue with Maureen O'Hara, and we'll talk about the Christmas box on CBS after these messages. You know, the time will go away quickly here, and then we won't have talked about the Christmas box, and I will not have done my job and served your needs.
Right.
This picture is for television, and the Christmas box is about?
It's, it's about a very domineering, slightly bad-tempered, likes her own way, old lady who lives alone in a great big house. She's very wealthy, but she has a bad heart problem.
I wonder who that person would be. I wonder who would play that role.
I don't know. But anyway, her lawyer is so terrified that she's going to die alone in this enormous house and nobody will find her for weeks. And he convinces her to hire a young man and his wife and their little girl, and that's Richard Thomas and Annette O'Toole and Kelsey Mulrooney, to come into the house to take care of her, the wife to cook some meals for her, and the husband to take care of the garden. Mm-hmm. And it's immediately she dislikes
of course.
The young man, and he doesn't like her.
We don't need these people around here.
No, and the wife says she's not as tough as she pretends to be. And it is the solving of the problems between these people and the learning about love and about what the first gift of Christmas was. And it's a really very beautiful story, and you'll need a box of Kleenex when you see it.
Good.
And of course, the first gift of Christmas was the Christ child. It is the birth of the baby Jesus. It's his birthday.
It sounds wonderful. I look forward to seeing it.
Please look at it.
I shall indeed, and I'm glad it's going to appear on CBS. When you were here in the glory days, how big was Chasen's restaurant in this town? You know, it's gone.
Oh, the best.
Yeah.
Oh, I was there just before it closed.
Yeah.
I had my own table there, as a matter of fact.
I'm sure you did.
And I went at least once a week to dinner there, and it was wonderful. And Dave Chasen lived across the street from me on Stone Canyon Road in Bel Air. Mm-hmm. And we were great, great friends. And we really missed Chasen's. It's a shame that
Tell
it's
me
gone.
about it. It's a crying shame.
It is.
And your sister is a nun?
That's right.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, something very interesting happened today.
Really?
I talked to my sister who runs Marycrest Manor.
My mom lives there.
That's what she told me. You beat me to it. I was going to tell you that your mom was there.
In her bed. I'm sleeping in her bed, and her sister's running my mom's life. Jeez,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on here? What is this? This is your life, Tom Snyder? Jeez. What's your sister's, Sister Mary?
Sister Margaret Mary.
Oh, sister, I know her. She's an angel in God's heaven.
She is.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Brilliant woman.
Yeah, brilliant.
Has her degrees from Scotland, has her degrees from University in Dublin, and from Loyola University in the United States of America.
Your sister
She's a very brilliant, brilliant woman.
Your sister is Sister Margaret Mary.
That's right.
And she never told me.
Well,
The nerve of that nun.
No, she wouldn't do that. She wouldn't do that.
I guess not, yeah. Oh, she's terrific. Absolutely.
She really is. She's wonderful.
Yeah, and so you called her on the phone today? She's fine, of course.
Oh, great.
Yeah, you're going to see her while you're here?
I do all the time.
Oh,
We chat
good.
every couple of days.
Good.
We have to get up on things. You know, oh, dear. What was the wonderful singer that used to sing with Jack Benny?
Dennis Day.
Dennis Day. His mother went in with, as we call her, Auntie Peggy at Marycrest Manor.
Oh, it's Auntie Peggy, is it?
To all the nieces and nephews,
Yeah.
to recuperate from some surgery.
Yeah.
She was so happy there, she refused to go home.
Oh, I know. It's
Yeah.
wonderful there.
Yeah.
But now, if I called Sister Margaret Mary Auntie Peggy, I'd go right across the face.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
That's very
You
sweet.
can try it.
I'm going to have a copy of this show made and sent over there first thing in the morning so that they can watch this, because they get to bed early over there. Yeah.
That's right.
I could talk to you all night here, but the other thing is, we all love this picture you made with Edmund Gwynn and with
Miracle on 34th Street.
Miracle on 34th Street with electric trains and Santa Claus, and when they bring all the letters in addressed to Santa Claus. And now they run it, it's the colorized version. Do you object to that being done to that picture?
Well, the first time I saw the colorized version, which was many, many, many years ago, I had purple skin and green hair, and I thought it was awful. But today, I'm quite sure that the technological advances are very fine, and I'm sure it's different today. But I have never seen it in the modern colorized version.
If I see it,
but I like it in black and white.
So do I. If it's in color, I turn the color off on the TV.
Well, then you get it in black and white anyway. So
and
there you are.
So what will you do for Christmas? Where will you be?
Well, we're a huge, big Irish family, and when we all get together, there's a little over 30 of us. So we'll all be having dinner together. Naturally, not sit down, because you couldn't sit that many people down.
No.
We'd have to go to a stadium somewhere.
Sounds terrific. Happy Christmas and Happy New Year, and thank you for gracing our stage tonight.
Well, thank you, and a very Merry Christmas to you, and take good care of my bed.
I shall indeed. Okay. I will sleep warm tonight knowing that you have been there.
You mean you're sleeping in it?
I certainly am.
My goodness gracious. I hope you don't fall out.
Me too.
Or maybe I do. Maybe I hope you do fall out.
You know something? If you want it back, I'll send it to you.
Huh?
If you want it back, I'll send it to you.
One of these days, yes, please.
Okay.
I'll take it.
All right. Let me know when.
Yeah. Okay. I will.
We will continue with Colonel David Hackworth after these messages. Thanks for watching. We'll be right back, folks.